In the Old West, where legends were born and myths were made, few figures stand as tall as Wyatt Earp. Known as a lawman, gambler, and gunfighter, Earp's name is synonymous with frontier justice. However, beneath the veneer of heroism and valor lies a story of complexity and contradiction. Among his many actions, one decision remains shrouded in controversy, sparking debate among historians and enthusiasts alike. This pivotal moment not only defined Earp's legacy, but also cast a long shadow over his storied career. Join us as we delve into the heart of Wyatt Earp's most contentious choice, exploring the motivations, repercussions, and lasting impact on American history. The lawman turned referee called a low blow in an 1896 heavyweight boxing match, and the uproar that followed reverberated nationwide. Wyatt Earp's bitterest enemy, one he could never vanquish, was not a Clanton, a McClory, or one of the other cowboys. It was a 2-inch tall cartoon character in an oversized sombrero. The mustachioed figure, a knife clamped in his teeth, would haunt Earp for the last 32 years of his life. The image first appeared in the New York Herald and was reprinted in the San Francisco Call on December 12, 1896. 10 days earlier, Earp had stood in a boxing ring at San Francisco's Mechanics Pavilion, acting as the referee in a bout between Bob Fitzsimmons and Tom Sharkey, two of the country's top heavyweights. In the 8th round, Fitzsimmons, who had been the clear leader up to that point, sent Sharkey sprawling to the canvas. Earp judged the hit to be a low blow, and, as he had done all his life, acted decisively by calling the fight for Sharkey. This decision ignited an explosive controversy in 4 San Francisco newspapers, which quickly spread nationwide. The question arose, was Earp a crook? More specifically, did he take a bribe to fix the fight for Sharkey? The uproar over Earp's decision grew so large that it did more to define him in the public's mind, at least in his time, than his work as a lawman in Dodge City, Kansas, or even the gunfight near the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona Territory. No previous event in his life was as important as the boxing match in making his name a household word, according to Jack DeMatteis, author of The Earp Decision, which chronicles the bout and the controversy. The decision certainly attracted more publicity than the 1881 Tombstone shootout, but the gunfight and the battle had one important similarity. Each brought Earp great personal anguish. The doubts cast on Wyatt Earp's character following the fight became a formidable adversary he couldn't overcome. Earp found himself unable to restore his honor against those who suspected a fix and eagerly shared their allegations with the press. The cartoon in the Herald, a mocking portrayal of a disreputable figure brandishing a gun at Fitzsimmons with one hand while discreetly handing a bag of money to Sharkey with the other, captured the contempt in stark black and white. The blow to Earp's pride was as harsh as any he had faced from his armed enemies at the OK Corral. At 48, Earp had limited experience in the world of boxing prior to December 2, 1896. His background included some teenage boxing, refereeing at frontier camps, and officiating a handful of bouts in Southern California and Tijuana, Mexico. However, the match between Sharkey and Fitzsimmons was far from a minor skirmish. It attracted 10,000 spectators, including some of San Francisco's elite, who paid a staggering $10 per ticket for what was promoted as a championship bout. The build-up to the fight dominated San Francisco's newspapers for a month, with reporters searching for unique angles to capture public interest. The Examiner made headlines with a sensational story about Fitzsimmons's pet lion, Nero, who had been electrocuted on a rooftop in Cleveland. This bizarre anecdote highlighted the frenzy surrounding the match and underscored the intense public and media interest. In August of that year, Earp had co-written a series of articles for William Randolph Hearst's Examiner, recounting his Wild West adventures. These stories, published under his name, revived his image as a frontier hero. However, when the boxing scandal erupted, these articles only made him a more enticing target for criticism, revealing the so-called incorruptible frontiersman as a potential fraud. The larger the celebrity, the more journalists relished the chance to bring him down, a pattern that remains true to this day. There was more to the story. Years earlier in Tombstone, Earp had served as a bodyguard for George Hearst, William Randolph Hearst's father, who was a prominent mining magnate, exploring investment opportunities in the silver boomtown. The series of articles in the Examiner was essentially a gesture of gratitude from the younger Hearst for the respect Earp had shown his father. However, this connection with the Hearsts only fueled animosity from the Call, a rival newspaper that seized the opportunity to vilify Earp. According to author Jack DeMattos, the Call was pioneering in its aggressive criticism of Earp, setting a precedent for the relentless debunking of his character that has persisted in Old West literature to this day. Initially, Earp was hesitant when the National Athletic Club invited him to referee the fight. However, he soon reconsidered, believing that overseeing such a high-profile match would be a significant opportunity. He remarked, "I think the two best men in the world are coming together now. I don't know but what it will be a little bit of tone for me to referee a fight of this kind." Controversy began even before the match started. Fitzsimmons' manager, Martin Julian, demanded Earp's removal as referee, alleging possible corruption. Earp offered to step down, but Sharkey's team insisted on keeping him. Amid this dispute, police captain George Whitman noticed a suspicious bulge in Earp's coat pocket, a gun. Whitman requested that Earp surrender the weapon, which he did. As the Examiner's Edward Hamilton noted, it was the first time in California's prize-fighting history that a referee had been disarmed. The Call seized on this incident, describing Earp showed the yellow dog in him by going into the ring with a Colts Navy revolver in his pocket. As anticipated, the seasoned Bob Fitzsimmons, known as Ruby Bob, dominated the championship match through the first 7 rounds. His opponent, the shorter and younger Tom Sharkey, nicknamed the Sailor, was struggling to match Fitzsimmons's powerful punches. At 23, Sharkey, originally from Ireland and formerly a cabin boy before joining the U.S. Navy in 1892, was no match for Fitzsimmons's formidable skills. In the 8th round, Fitzsimmons landed a solid left hook to Sharkey's chin, followed by a devastating body blow, a notorious solar plexus punch that knocked the wind out of Sharkey. Sharkey fell to the canvas, clutching his midsection. One of Sharkey's trainers rushed into the ring, accusing Fitzsimmons of foul play. Fitzsimmons simply smiled and walked to his corner, seemingly suggesting that Sharkey was attempting to feign injury, as noted by the Examiner. With police intervening to control the crowd, Earp calmly approached Sharkey's corner and declared him the winner. The crowd was taken aback by both the decision and the punch that led to it. According to Alan Barra, author of Inventing Wyatt Earp, the audience was stunned because Fitzsimmons' ability to end a match with a body blow was unprecedented. The fight was also governed by the Marquis of Queensberry rules, which had recently been adopted and included provisions for low blows. These rules were still new to Earp and many spectators, making the sudden end of the match over a foul, which many did not clearly see, surprising. W. W. Naughton of the Examiner believed that Sharkey was genuinely injured, suggesting that if he wasn't in pain, he would have had to be a remarkable actor. Despite this, Fitzsimmons and his corner loudly denounced the outcome as fixed, and their outrage grew when Sharkey, who was carried out of the ring visibly injured, refused to let the athletic club's physician examine him. Sharkey eventually allowed Dr. D. D. Lustig to examine him at a hotel 18 hours after the fight. In his letter to the Examiner, Dr. Lustig's observations further fueled suspicions about the match's outcome. While Lustig noted some swelling and bruising on Sharkey, he remarked that if these injuries were caused by Fitzsimmons's blows, they would be significantly more severe. He also questioned why Sharkey, if in such intense pain, had not permitted an examination immediately after the fight. Sharkey's reluctance to undergo a timely medical checkup lent credibility to Fitzsimmons' claim that he had been unfairly deprived of the $10,000 prize. Fitzsimmons asserted to reporters, "I knew I was going to be robbed before I entered the ring." He alleged that on the day of the fight, several individuals had warned his manager not to accept Earp as the referee, claiming Earp had agreed to rig the match in favor of Sharkey for a substantial bribe. The San Francisco Call highlighted this claim with provocative headlines. The Cornishman was warned against accepting the ex-Faro dealing sharp. In response, Earp maintained that his only regret was not disqualifying Sharkey sooner due to Fitzsimmons's alleged foul play. He firmly rejected the accusations against him, declaring them to be nonsense. "I felt that I did what was right and honorable, and feeling so, I care nothing for the opinion of anybody," Earp told the Examiner. He insisted that he saw the foul blow clearly and emphasized that if he were to favor anyone, it would have been Fitzsimmons, as his close friend Bat Masterson had bet every dollar he could muster on Fitzsimmons. However, Earp's subsequent actions after the fight would cast a shadow over his claims of integrity. The day after the fight, Earp visited the Ingleside racetrack, where he managed horses, seemingly unaware that the police were searching for him. When they located him at a restaurant that evening, Earp complied with their request to accompany them to the station. Captain Whitman arrested him there on the charge of carrying a concealed weapon. "I did not expect to be arrested, or I would have surrendered myself," Earp said. Whitman responded, "I would have arrested you at the fight, but fearing trouble, I decided to wait until today." When Earp asked if Whitman thought he would flee, Whitman replied, "I knew where to find you. You couldn't have avoided us for long." Earp paid a $50 fine, but questions lingered about why he had carried a gun into the boxing ring. Earp explained that he had simply forgotten the weapon was in his pocket. He typically carried a gun due to his late nights at the racetrack and his past as a lawman. "My life is constantly in danger from people I have sent to state prison from Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, who have threatened to kill me when their terms expire. Some of those terms are ending now," he said. Earp claimed that if these individuals knew he was unarmed, it would lead to a general assault on him. Skeptics found it hard to believe that Earp could forget he had a Colt 45 with an 8-inch barrel in his coat. When Fitzsimmons challenged the fight outcome in court, hoping to block Sharkey from receiving the $10,000 purse, Earp's reputation suffered further. Although he was subpoenaed to testify, he missed the court date, leading to another arrest warrant. When he finally appeared, he offered a barely audible apology, explaining that he had accidentally left the subpoena in his pocket and forgotten about it. Despite the judge accepting his apology, Earp's actions gave the impression that he was evading legal obligations. By this time, the media frenzy had fully ignited. Newspapers were churning out cartoon after cartoon, and reporters dug into Wyatt Earp's frontier past, highlighting episodes where he appeared in a negative light. The Chronicle took particular pleasure in mocking the various mispronunciations of Earp's name in court. Bailiffs called him Waya. Colonel Kowalski referred to him as Wat Europe. Witness Smith mentioned him as White Herp, and General Barnes consistently called him Ward Up. Even the judge struggled, once stumbling over his name and saying, "Now, witness, where did you first see this this man who officiated at the fight?" Notable novelist Alfred Henry Lewis joined the chorus of criticism, labeling Earp as crooked as a dog's hind leg. Lewis was particularly harsh, writing, "If there are any honest hairs in his head, they have not grown since he left Arizona. He is precisely the sort of man to referee a prize fight if a fix is planned, and the job is to ensure the wrong man wins." Despite the scorn, no concrete evidence has emerged linking Earp to any wrongdoing. Many view the incident through the lens of the Tombstone Saga, with those who believe Earp behaved poorly in Arizona territory, often suspecting his involvement in the San Francisco scandal. "It seems so shady," says Steve Gatto, author of 8 Western history books. "A man is winning a fight, then a foul is called, and the fight is handed to the clear loser. My gut feeling is Wyatt had something to do with a fixed fight." Gatto offers an intriguing perspective on the gun Earp carried. "It's ironic that Wyatt was armed that night in San Francisco, but not the night Fred White was killed in Tombstone. That night, he had to borrow a gun. Maybe he carried a weapon into the ring because he was involved in some shady dealings." Alan Barra initially believed the fight was fixed, but his perspective changed after discussions with boxing expert Bert Sugar, former editor and publisher of The Ring. Sugar explained that in a fixed match, the fighter typically takes a dive, and the referee is rarely involved in such schemes. More crucially, Sugar pointed out that if the fight were rigged, Sharkey would not have waited until the 8th round to go down, especially against a stronger puncher like Fitzsimmons, who could have knocked him out at any moment. Based on these insights, Barra, a sports writer for the Wall Street Journal, now speculates that Sharkey's team might have manipulated the situation using Earp without his prior knowledge. "I think Sharkey had a choice," Barra says. "He could either continue getting beaten by Fitzsimmons or take a dive and walk away with the $10,000. What would you do?" Sharkey's corner, by opting for someone as inexperienced as Earp to referee, suggests they had something planned. Lee Silva, author of Wyatt Earp, a biography of the legend, also dismisses the notion of Earp's involvement in the fix, not because of Earp's moral standards, but due to his gambling habits. Silva argues that Earp was a compulsive gambler and would have had little interest in a predetermined outcome. He wouldn't be attracted to a sure thing, Silva explains. It would have taken the gamble out of gambling, and that wasn't his style. Silva also notes that the gun Earp carried should not be surprising. Everyone I interviewed who knew Wyatt said he never went anywhere without a pistol. The San Francisco judge who reviewed Earp's case effectively ruled in his favor by upholding Earp's decision on the grounds that prizefighting itself was illegal. However, this ambiguous resolution only ensured that the controversy surrounding the fight would continue. The controversy reignited 13 years later in New York City when Bob Edgren, sports editor for the Evening World, wrote a column reiterating his claims of Earp's guilt. In his piece, Edgren took jabs at Bat Masterson, who was then writing for a competing newspaper, and even indulged in sensational tales about Earp marking his pistols to tally his murder victims. In response, Earp fired off a letter denouncing Edgren, expressing his desire to carve 12 notches on the columnist's lying tongue. This exchange highlights Earp's fierce defense of his reputation and his contempt for false accusations. Robert DeArmond, Masterson's leading biographer, recounts this episode in detail, capturing the intensity of the public dispute. A few years later, writer Eugene Cunningham interviewed Sharkey about the fight. Cunningham described Sharkey as appearing uncomfortable and evasive, mumbling that there were aspects of the fight that were not widely known, and suggesting he saw no point in discussing it further. This account is colored by Cunningham's known biases against Earp, which complicates the interpretation of Sharkey's remarks. The debate continued into the early 1980s when San Francisco's Court of Historical Review, a group dedicated to re-examining historical disputes, held a mock trial to address the Earp controversy. The courtroom was filled with history enthusiasts, retired boxers, and even Earp family descendants, all eager to hear testimony from expert witnesses on both sides. As is often the case with Earp-related events, the courtroom was packed. When the verdict was announced, the crowd erupted into applause upon hearing that Earp had been exonerated. Such intense interest is fitting for a matter that overshadowed the remainder of Wyatt Earp's life. In 1897, Earp followed his usual pattern by joining the gold rush to Alaska, seeking to escape the persistent scrutiny and media criticism. He aimed to find solace in a remote area and put the controversy behind him. However, the shadow of the fight continued to follow him, darkening his reputation and making it challenging to secure employment. Apart from a few inconsequential jackpot bouts, Earp did not work as a referee again. His attempts at success in the saloon business in distant Alaska offered only brief relief, and he spent his final years in relative poverty, partly due to the fallout from San Francisco in 1896. One significant consequence was Earp's decision to avoid nearly all press interviews in the decades following the match. He described the fame and notoriety as a curse. In a bitter 1925 letter, he expressed his disdain, stating, "I detest it." This prolonged period of silence raises intriguing questions. How might his life have differed if he had declined the opportunity to referee the fight? Would our understanding of Earp be different if he had engaged with the media rather than avoiding them? What additional insights might we have gained about the OK Corral, his subsequent vendetta, and his relationships with his life companion, Josie, and his friend, Doc Holliday? While we can only speculate, it is clear that the San Francisco scandal, vividly illustrated by the mocking cartoon, left a lasting blemish on his honor, a challenge tougher to confront than any outlaw he faced. In the end, Wyatt Earp's decision to call the fight between Fitzsimmons and Sharkey remains one of the most contentious moments in his storied career. The lingering doubts and sensationalized accounts have only fueled the debate, leaving us to ponder the true nature of Earp's actions and their impact on his legacy. If you enjoyed diving into this pivotal moment of Western history, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more intriguing stories and in-depth analyses of the Old West. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest content and join the conversation as we explore the legends and controversies that defined an era.